Hi, this is David Stromayer. I was the film restorationist on The Wonderful World of the Brothers Grimm, along with my partner in Canada, Tom March. Well, Brothers Grimm was sort of a passion project for director George Powell, who did so many wonderful movies, science fiction movies, War of the Worlds and Time Machine and everything. And this was his first time in dealing with anything as crazy as Cinerama. But he took the challenge, just like we did when we restored the movie. And that's why you'll see at the end of the movie, we've dedicated the film to the memory of George Powell. But anyway, the Brothers Grimm is loosely based on the history of the Brothers Grimm, who wrote all those wonderful fairy tales all through the years, over 200 years ago or something. But they took three of those fairy tales that were the least known. They didn't do Cinderella, Snow White. Those have all been done a million times. They had to pick certain fairy tales out that would kind of work with the film. And George Powell himself directed the fairy tale parts, where the other parts were directed by Henry Levin, who was a famous director all through the 50s and 60s. So it's basically loosely based on history, but of course, Hollywood never really sticks to history, right? It's got to rearrange things, add characters, combine two characters into one, that sort of thing. So it's entertaining from the standpoint that it moves pretty at a nice clip, and you see lots of scenery in Europe, which is where George Powell grew up. And so it's a very nostalgic trip with lots of gorgeous color and dancing and singing and you name it. We took a film that the studios didn't want to deal with anymore. There was water damage in a vault years and years ago. The film was warped. Uh, some areas didn't have sprocket holes left on one side, or there'd be some missing sprocket holes or something. So it was one of these rare challenges that came along, and Warner Brothers was very happy to have some crazy person like me do this instead of them, because it would have been endless overtime to get this thing done. I did it for my love for Cinerama and the fact that I'd restored all these other Cinerama movies. So this is the last one I have to deal with. This is great. It's over after this. And so Tom and I agreed to do it. We did it as a volunteer. We didn't accept any money for it. This is for film history. We did it for that purpose. It took a year and a half to do, and I'm retired, so I can do these things. And I've got all the equipment. The Cinerama people actually bought me new equipment so I could do 4K instead of 2K. So I guess I got some equipment out of it, but I really wanted to do it to finish this whole Cinerama legacy thing. But there were film inspection reports from 1998 or something that was sent to the studio. They had examined all this film. Again, it's three times the amount of film, actually more than three times the amount of normal film. And they had spotted mold. They had spotted, the warpage, as I said earlier, and all kinds of problems, scratches, you name it, everything that could go wrong with a film in storage at a major studio, which is amazing. And then you add the water damage to that. So it was really a crazy thing to do. Well, normal restoration work basically has, as you say, one frame that you deal with, whether it be 70 millimeter, 35, 8 millimeter. So most likely the color will be consistent on that, other than if the film was stored on its side. I don't know how this happens, but sometimes the color fades across the screen. So in Cinerama, you have that times three, because film normally would go through the processing at the lab at the same time in Cinerama. So all three would go through the same soup, the same chemicals. Every once in a while, it wouldn't, or one can would be stored separately from the other one. And now you're going to match these up after 50, 60 years. And this one is kind of pinkish, this one is kind of bluish, and the other one is kind of something else. Yeah, there's no name for it. And so you got to make them all look like the same across all three panels. So what ends up generally happening is you'll get, let's say, the C panel, or I mean the B panel, which is in the middle, and you'll get gorgeous color. The sky is really blue, and the flesh tone's perfect enough. Oh, flesh tones, don't talk to me about flesh. And but then on the C camera, it'll have faded differently. So you try to bring that up to the C camera. Well, you can't quite do it. So you have to compromise between the three separate images to equal one image. So you don't always get the color or the flesh tone you really want because you have to compromise, because there's nothing worse than seeing a gorgeous panel here and a faded one over here and something else over there. And then it takes you out of the mood of the film. Well, Cinerama means to me is, I guess I'm famous because of Cinerama in a way. But when I saw it as a kid, it made a huge impression. The family got into a car. We went to the big city to see this thing called Cinerama. I got to brag to all the kids back in the fourth grade that I saw Cinerama. Oh, you did? Oh, what was it like? You get all that. So the first movie I saw was Seven Wonders of the World. The second movie I saw was How the West Was Won. And I remember when I started restoring Seven Wonders of the World, I kept thinking, boy, I'm reliving back when I was 7 years old and I saw this movie, and it was such a big deal. The theater was crowded. Everybody was dressed up. In those days, you dressed up to go to the movies. And I remember taking the Blu-ray to my mom's house back in Iowa, where I grew up, and running Seven Wonders of the World for her, And then she turned to me and said, so you were able to save this movie? And imagine back in 1957 when we saw it, that you were this tall and you were able to save this movie that we were all so amazed to see, that you were the guy that, I said, had you not taken me to see Seven Wonders of the World, maybe all these films wouldn't be restored. I don't know. So I hope you enjoy Brothers Grimm. It was a labor of love. We got it done, and it was almost an impossible task. But it's one of those things where if a studio does it, it's going to cost a fortune. If you got crazy guys like me doing it, we just get it done. We just get the damn thing done, and it looks fantastic. So I guess as you're watching this, just imagine how much work it took to get there.